I've spent most of my career in the no-code and low-code space, and I've played around with various agent builders, and so I was pretty excited to see the launch of LangSmith's agent builder a couple months ago. And this is a quick review of how the product works and some implications for technical and non-technical agent builders. So once you log in, I will start with a template, which is this one right here. It's a canonical email assistant agent. This is built from the original, I think, agent inbox agent. I need to connect my Google account or Gmail account. I'm just going to auth through these really quick. All right. And now I also want to set up these triggers. So I'm just going to write my email here. This email assistant essentially helps you draft and send emails based on what's coming in your inbox. So before I start chatting with my email assistant, I actually like looking at what was built behind the scenes. And this is a really interesting graph which shows what's actually happening from this template. You have triggers here, which you can schedule basically when the email gets checked. This is like a no-code way of creating a cron, so every 5-10 minutes. And then this is the email. The heart of the assistant is this agent. And this is the whole prompt that goes into that agent. And then this is the main way that you're able to send emails and schedule calendar events is using MCP servers. So you have this Gmail mark as read, get thread. You can also change things to require human approval. And then there's also subagents and skills. And so I think this will require some more refinement in terms of how you think about using toolboxes, subagents, and skills. I like to think of subagents as really distinct things that you want to get done for your agent. This is, in this case, creating calendar events when they come in through Gmail. And then skills are just additional domain expertise that you may want to provide to the agent. I'm going to go back to the main agent part. I'm going to say, let's say, help me draft and respond to emails using Gen Z slang only. And this will now update I think it's called Agent MD, the main kind of prompt for how it's going to respond to emails. And I have one email so far in my inbox. It's just coming from myself. I want to schedule a demo next Tuesday at 9. I would like a demo of your product next Tuesday at 9. So hopefully the calendar sub agent picks this up. All right, it finally got the prompt, and as expected, it is responding to the email or drafting email in a Gen Z slang. And I could also ask it to actually create the draft in Gmail since I have connected my Gmail inbox with the agent. One thing I wanted to call out here, when I looked at this calendar context sub agent and I saw parsing dates, checking availability, I actually wrote this Google Apps script to do something similar. And it's so amazing how this was probably a year ago where I was literally writing if statements to check and parse calendar events that are coming through Gmail. And now this is all just handled through natural language. So just another cool thing to see how far LLMs have gone. Now let's look at something a little more realistic and more advanced perhaps. I'm going to create another agent that's trying to build a RAG application. So I'm going to say new agent, GPT-5, and this is the prompt. I want to upload PDFs of SOP, standard operating procedures, for my hospital group so that nurses and physicians can ask the agent questions on our internal protocols. I want to parse the PDFs with Llama Parse. It's just this document parsing service from Llama Index. And then using Llama Index's dedicated quadrant vector store integration to load and create the vector embeddings so this agent can do RAG. So I want to create an agent that physicians and nurses can use to ask it questions. And let's see it cook. I think this is going to take a while, so I'll pause the video and come back to it. Product direction, I think, was interesting in terms of not starting with the workflow builder. You could start by just dragging and dropping nodes in the graph. But I think in this blog post, Harrison Chase, the CEO of LangChain, specifically talks about how workflow builders are not that great. And he believes that providing an agent feedback on making it better or making it higher quality is the way to go in terms of the product experience. So I think what's great about LangChain LangSmith Agent Builder is that you can start with the reasoning, but then you can actually look under the hood to see how the workflow has been built. One thing I noticed about the workflow builder is that it looks really similar to LangGraph Studio. So when you run LangGraph dev for a LangGraph application, you get this local visualization of your agent. And I feel like the LangGraph Studio should probably just merge with the Agent Builder, because Agent Builder is like a little more useful, I think, compared to the LangGraph Studio. Final thing I want to talk about in terms of the Agent Builder is that it's a great way to build something fast, but if you want to debug it, you can still go into LangSmith. You can see the full trace of what happened with that agent. I think for someone who's non-technical and trying to build these agents using the builder, this might be too in the weeds. Even if you collapse this, it doesn't really, there's all this middleware stuff for a non-technical user. I'm like, do I care about this stuff? I don't know. So let's go back to the agent builder, and I don't know where, did it stop cooking? Let me try to build it again. All right, we'll let it cook again. Some pros, I think, for Agent Builder is that obviously great for low code, no code audience, these non-technical builders, if you will, to just start right away by providing a prompt. If you're working in a startup and you need to prototype agents really quickly, obviously a great way to get started. The floor has been lowered, so you don't have to get into LangChain and LangGraph necessarily. The addition of MCPs and skills to connect all of your data and domain expertise together into one place, I think that's also a nice win. And then ultimately for LangChain, it's a great lead funnel for LangSmith, their commercial offering. Some cons, at least in terms of my experience working with customers, specifically from large banks, institutions, corporations, custom logic and observability may still require LangGraph, LangChain, and other agent frameworks. Just having Agent Builder ready to go out of the box, you may not meet the regulatory and compliance requirements that are necessary in certain industries. Maybe you can get away with creating, again, simple email agents that are just helping you get productive in your day-to-day. But for these more complex workflows that have specific regulatory and compliance requirements, I'm not 100% sure what the guardrails are like for this Agent Builder. And then finally, I think people will still turn to workflow builders when they want reliable outputs. Again, you can get this with an agent builder, but the product interface, from what I can see, is to start with providing the prompt. All right, so this finally came back with some questions. And let's say I want to say grounded. I like this question and answer thing to give it direction. Hopefully this will cook in a short amount of time. Then going back to takeaways, competitors. I think I first started playing around with Glean agents back when I was working at Grammarly and now Superhuman. They started with, I believe they still have the workflow builder, but I think they're also getting into providing reasoning agents. Zapier has this Zapier Central product, which is also like a workplace for you to add in all of your workplace agents. N8N, obviously the big kind of workflow builder gorilla in the room, took off huge, I think, in the last year. More recently, Vellum, I think they pivoted to helping you create agents for the workplace. Previously, I think they were more on the experiment and observability evaluation side. And then ode to my former company, Superhuman, they also have agents, and I believe are opening up the ability to build agents as well. All right, Agent Builder finally finished cooking. Took a little while, but it is done. Create agent. This is a great start. I think what I was expecting to see was the toolbox. I don't think Llama Parse is a part of Llama Parse. Nope, Llama Index is not there. I was expecting to see some of these tools added to the toolbox. Maybe some sub-agents created too, but it looks like it's mostly just created the instructions for the agent. And then it's up to me to figure out how to set up the Quadrant Vector Store, setting up Llama Parse, and then perhaps adding them as services or MCPs to this toolbox. One final thing I wanted to call out was, I still remember this interview that Harrison Chase did with Jason Calacanis less than a year ago, when Jason asked Harrison about whether or not there will be a low-code, no-code entry point for LangChain, and this is what he said.
Final question for you. You used to have to hire a developer to do anything, and maybe a script kiddie on the margins or whatever. Now I'm seeing a lot of people pick a platform, a Notion, Code, Slack, and then they use something like Zapier or if this then that, kind of glue some workflow together. And I think some of those other products are starting to add a little bit of workflow here on the margins, simple stuff. But when will a non-developer be able to do the coding for agents? Because we are seeing in the startup community, I've had 3 or 4 startups come to me with no developer, and they built MVPs, and I'm like, that's pretty impressive. So do you have that on your roadmap? English language agent creation? Is it on your roadmap at LangChain?
I think it's not super close on our roadmap. The agents that we see being built that are the most intern, they're all built by pretty strong developer teams. So Replit has a very strong developer team. GitLab does as well. Klarna does as well. And I think the reason for this is a fewfold. One, I think the best practices for building these agents is still super early on. Like LLMs have really only been a thing in the public domain for about 2 years, and agents for maybe a year. And so we're still figuring out what the best practices are. And so there's a lot of control that you want to be able to have. And then another big part is giving these systems access to all the other systems that exist within the company. And this is very heavy on integrations, and that's a place where there's a lot of need for coding and data engineering at the moment. So at the moment, to be honest, I'm a little bit skeptical that we'll see that anytime soon. Most of the most impressive agents we see are being built by strong.
So I think 2 things came true since the interview in less than a year ago. Is number 1, these best practices have appeared, I think, over the last year. Things like MCP servers, sub-agent skills to give your agents some harness or guardrails around what it has access to, what it can do. And then the second thing you mentioned is just integrations with your existing tools. Glean, again, did this really well with integrating with all of your kind of system of records. But with MCP servers, you now can quickly add context like the web search with Tavily. Oh, this is cool. Seeing Pylon here. Twitter, Gmail. So again, these 2 things that Harrison mentioned in that interview became true in the last year, which is why I think they are leaning into Agent Builder. And never say never. So thanks for watching this, and would love to get your feedback.